Middlesex School Board will now come to order. Can I have a motion to come out of recess?
So moved.
Second.
Moving properly second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried. Now let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time, do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none. Okay. Next, we have public announcements. All right, public announcements. April is Autism Awareness and Child Abuse Prevention Month. April 21st, early release of students. We have a work day. April 22nd, School Bus Drivers Appreciation Day. April 23rd, Administration Professional Day. May the 5th, Interim Report issue. May the 5th through the 9th, Teachers Appreciation Week. And May the 12th, School Board meeting here at St. Clair Walker. All right. Next, we have recognition, Superintendent.
Yes, and I'm going to go to the podium, and I'm going to ask Dr. Bishop to join me at the podium. And we are back already for the third quarter navigator of the quarter. I feel like I was just here introducing you to the second quarter navigators of the quarter, and that's how fast this year is flying by. And so first we're recognizing employees for both capacity building and community engagement. And first we are going to start with capacity building, which ties to our strategic plan and states that our division creates a respectful and supportive culture for all school community members. So just as we've done before in our processes where we share a nomination form with staff, students, parents, and the community, they submit nominations through that form, and tonight we will recognize 9 staff members. And like I said, we're going to start with capacity building. So as we call your name, if you will please come down front to join us, because we do want to get a picture at the end. Start like this. So the first staff member we would like to recognize is Ms. Rachel Adams, and Rachel is one of our 4th grade teachers at Middlesex Elementary School. Rachel is also a graduate of Middlesex High School, and I happened to be her principal when she was in here at St. Clair Walker. I'm excited to be able to recognize her. Next, we have Haley Foster, and Haley teaches or works in our youngest classroom of students in the 3-year-old pre-K classroom. She's a paraprofessional. Haley also went through our school system, and I think aspires to be a teacher. Next, we have Rachel Teagle, and Rachel is the counselor here at St. Clair Walker Middle School. And our last person for capacity building is Mr. Jeff. And Mr. Jeff works is a maintenance technician, working in all of our locations around the division. And do I see Mr. Jeff? And Mr. Jeff looks like he's not here tonight, but you see his picture up here. Primarily, he's at the elementary school, but he does service in a lot of roles throughout the division. And so all of these people that we've recognized right now were for capacity building. So stay up here. Next, we will recognize those nominated for community engagement, where our division creates, engages, and sustains partnerships that enhance our schools and community. And first up, we will invite down Nicole Bagby, who is here at St. Clair Walker Middle School as one of our special education teachers. Also here at St. Clair Walker is Tracy Pozick, who is one of our 8th grade teachers, specifically teaching civics. Joining us here on the front row, because that's what she said her family does, is Nikki Ambrose, one of our history teachers from Middlesex High School. Her son wanted her to be right in the front. We'd also ask Michelle Slider to come down and join our group. Michelle is one of our dedicated paraprofessionals here at St. Clair Walker. And then last but certainly not least is Melvina Robinson, who serves in our CTE department at Middlesex High School in addition to about 100 other roles that she has, keeping lots of things going and flowing for both students and staff at Middlesex High School. And so these are our navigators of quarter 3. Thank you for being here tonight, but thank you more so for everything you do every day for our students in our division. We're going to get Kim to get a picture.
Next, we'll have educational highlights, Middlesex High School.
Good evening. We have students from our carpentry class here to present some of the great things they've been doing this year. I will let them introduce themselves and take off with the presentation.
My name is Lucian Hampton.
My name is Lorelei Frederick.
My name is Luke McMurtry. Good evening, school board. We are very thankful that y'all asked for us to come and speak with y'all. One of our main goals is safety in the workshop, so we are all OSHA certified. We all took classes, and this is how we do it out of the National Center for Construction and Education and Research. They give us textbooks and the preparation for industry credentialing.
This is the shed from the 23 and 24 years, and we just had to do like some finishing touches on it, and it helped us go over the safety for OSHA, like trying on the harnesses and being able to get on top of the roof of the shed and putting on shingles, just trying out stuff. These are some more pictures of us just messing around on top of the roof with all of our harnesses up there.
The second project for carpentry, we built a boat, and the materials came from Deltaville Maritime, and we're gonna start doing tickets for it during outside games and to try and raise the money up from them buying it.
We'd also like to give a special thank you to Mike and Carolyn Landy for sponsoring and paying for the materials. Without our partnership through the community, we would not be able to do the projects we do and get out. So thank y'all all for the support. Here's some more pictures as we are going through building the boat. And then this is us painting and sealing the boat. So we also recently went on a field trip to the middle school, as you can see some of the stuff behind here. But at the elementary school, we did picnic tables. We did 5 picnic tables, 2 larger scale ones and 3 smaller scale. And we took those last Thursday so all the students could try it out. And if there's anything that needs to be changed, we brought tools to change it to their liking and just to make sure that they're satisfied with the product that we put out. Then here's some more photos of us with the kids down there at the elementary school.
And one of the most recent projects we worked on was the drama project, which y'all can see behind y'all. We did many of miter and difficult cuts to try to make it look as close as possible to a judge's booth and the little sitting area. But, I mean, it took us a little bit. We had to go from a project just from working on the picnic table straight to another one, so we didn't really get a break. It was almost like we were working a job getting us ready. But, I mean, it was fun. We enjoyed it. We all worked hard, and eventually it came out pretty well. So here's some more pictures of it, of us moving it together and getting it set up how it's supposed to look.
These are some pictures from last Thursday of us putting the equipment and stuff on the trailers for us to take it to the elementary school and to the middle school. I don't know.
The operations department of the school system came down and helped us out by a 14 or 16-foot trailer and a 12-foot trailer by helping us get this down the road safely. And we would like to thank them as well for helping us out. And we have 8 carpentry students, and this is 3 of us, but thank you all very much for letting us come out. Thank you.
Oh, they got questions.
Nice work, really nice work. Is this an avocation or a vocation? Is this going to be something you want to pursue as a career or just a hobby? Either one's pretty good.
Yeah, I was actually planning on going to the military for it and taking classes to learn how to build buildings and do type drawing.
Yeah, okay.
This is more for a hobby or, just around the house. I plan on doing fire and rescue when I
Yeah.
get out of high school.
Come over to my house sometime. How about you?
No, not really. When I grow up, I plan on being in the Air Force for pharmacy tech because I'm taking pharmacy tech at New Kent. So I would like to do
Yeah.
pharmacy tech in the Air Force.
Excellent, thanks. Thank you.
And Mr. Stearns couldn't be here. He's coaching the girls' soccer game right now. So a lot of our kids are involved. We were able to get 3 tonight, so they're all very, very busy. Thank you.
All right. Next, we have public comment.
Dawn Moore, Saluda.
No, I was during 9/11, so like guys are going anyway. Yeah, you have to tell us.
Good evening, my name is Dawn Moore. Tonight, I will be speaking on behalf of the NAACP. Sitting in the meeting earlier today in the work session, there was a lot of talk about the student removal form, and it will fluctuate from school to school. As parents look in the policy manual, unable to find things, I think it would be very important to have them forms Even if it's school to school, they all need to be in the policy manual because we don't, as parents, nobody sees them. There was also talk on leaving decisions to the teacher. I have spoke before on behalf of myself and the NAACP about the gray areas in our policy manual. I will again request that you go and review the Middlesex County Public Schools New Jersey policy manual, or even Gloucester, since everybody likes to compare us with our neighboring counties, because our policy manual is not where it should be. There's too much gray area, and as was discussed, this teacher will let you do this and this teacher will not. But now I'm in trouble in this class because of that gray area. It's just going crazy right now across the board. I have never had so many meetings in the 8 years I have had a child in this school system as I have this year, due to the policy manual, the unsureness of the policy manual, the indiscrepancies in the policy manual. I think it's about time that an ad hoc committee is put together to review some of your policy manual and include parents, include your community stakeholders, because that's something this school board does not do. I don't know of any committee, except for when you worked on the calendar, and I don't even know if that happens anymore because you don't hear about it, to include your community stakeholders. I, as a parent that have been here in this school system, have never once seen an ad hoc committee, except for the one time when Delaney was in kindergarten that the calendar was worked on. Since then, there is no community. There is no parent-teacher. There is no administrative parent communication, period, no matter which way you look at it. And sitting in the meeting, the work session earlier, if I did not say to myself, go and look at the agenda before you leave, I never would have known about the work session. You got a Facebook page. We got an app we're supposed to use, and it's never there. Thank you.
David Gresham, Saluda.
Good evening. My name is Davelyn Gresham, Saluda District. I'm just concerned about the lack of transparency this board has created this year. I looked on the website because someone else sent me the information, and I saw a list of 20 different policy changes that you're making. I'm looking at a printout that was from online. And according to the meeting that you just had, what you're going to keep is lined out. And what you're going to eliminate is underlined. And when I went online and looked at it, it's very confusing. So when we get in these meetings, we have no clue what you're talking about when you say you're on first read. You may say the letters, and I think it's like 20 of them tonight. We have no idea what it is. And I called my superintendent just in case somebody wants to ask that question. And he didn't know. He didn't even realize that 20 of them were being done tonight. So if you don't know what's going on, how are we supposed to know? Where is the transparency? Where's the communication with the community and the school? Because that's one of your items you had on your agenda, was to be transparent with the community. But this year you've done more and more and more to eliminate the public being involved in these decisions than you have in trying to include us. We voted for you all to be in here. And you're trying to put us out of the conversation. And that's got to stop. Because our children are the ones that are in here. And if our leaders are not willing to share the information with us, how are we going to put our kids in here and trust you with them? Because I've seen a lot of things that have disappointed me in the school system this year, more than I've ever seen in my entire lifetime, and I'm 69 years old. And it's very disappointing in this small community that so many things go wrong, when so many things should be going right, because it is a small community. And we have community outside the school system, but all of a sudden now we're gonna be real tight inside the system. So y'all need to reconsider the way you're doing business, because the way you're doing it now, it's failing. It's failing us, and it's failing the students. And something needs to be done. Or you all should be looking for another line of business. Thank you.
Public comment is now closed. Next, we have board member comments, reports. Tiff?
Update from the Middlesex Committee, Foundation Committee. We are moving as much as we can to secure funds for the affordable housing complex. Every week, every month, there have been, it's a little bit more of a chunk taken out of that hefty price tag, but things are moving in the right direction, and I'm excited about the progress that's being made. So, good things.
Dr. Burnett?
This Thursday, the Chesapeake Bay Governor's School Joint School Board will meet. And then on the 26th, no, not the 26th, on the 23rd, the MHS Renovation Committee will meet. So that's my report, Mr. Chair.
It's the 23rd.
23rd.
As far as Bridging Communities go, we have a signing day on May 20th at New Kent High School at 6 p.m. And if you don't know what that is, it's where the kids from the trade school, they sign with employers that they've either been interning with or have future employment once they graduate high school. It's a very cool event. They get put on stage with the employer. They show them their benefits package for the most part. They sign their letter of intent just like you would for a college. So.
Tomorrow morning, I have a regional special ed meeting in Gloucester, so just one day too late.
Hi.
Anna?
I actually have an update for all schools this meeting. For MES, last Wednesday, the students celebrated Purple Up for Military Kids Day, which shows appreciation for military-connected kids. And then on April 26th, which is a Friday, the PTO is hosting a spring fling for the MES students. And then for St. Clair Walker, the 6th and 7th graders will have a social immediately after school on Friday till 5 p.m. And then the 8th graders will have a dance that same evening from 6 to 8 p.m. And then for Middlesex, I just have that the prom tickets will go on sale on Monday, and they're $15 each, and that the spring sports are pretty much flowing now, so make sure to stop by. Just because there's not really much going on, because everyone's just kind of in the flow of getting ready for school to be out.
I look forward to the meeting on the 23rd. Yes. All right. Any action items? Yes, sir.
That would be me.
Yes, sir.
Special education?
Yeah, I didn't see your name there.
Yeah, that's, I'll step right in.
Okay.
Kathleen was not able to attend tonight.
Okay.
She had other plans for working with other parents and families. But the local education agencies, Middlesex County Public Schools, are required to establish their eligibility to receive funding under the IDEA of 2004. IDEA is a federal IDEA and its federal implementing regulations require that each LEA provide for the education of children with disabilities within its jurisdiction, has in effect policies and procedures and programs consistent with the VDOE policies and procedures which have been established in accordance with IDEA. The annual plan, Part B flow-through application, is a component of the VDOE's overall responsibility to ensure that each LEA is in compliance with the implementation of the requirements of IDEA. Under IDEA Part B, Section 1.1, grant funds are primarily used to support salaries and benefits of 4.5 special education teachers. and paraprofessional positions. There's also proportionate set-aside funds that are used to provide services to parentally placed students. And there's also funds set aside to support professional development and webinars. Middlesex County also recognizes that early intervention is important, and there are components in that to align with the skills necessary to be lifelong learners. Specifically for Part B, Section 619, Early Childhood Special Education Funds. And those are used to support a partial salary for one instructional assistant in the classroom, in the ECSE classroom. That's Early Childhood Special Education Classroom. And those funds are support, all these funds within special education supports salaries, benefits, and also professional development and other materials. And that is the special education plan for your review.
All right, next we have policies.
You need action to approve
Action.
the plan.
Okay, so you'll ask for a vote there. Okay, I've heard that. Do I have a move? Have a second? Moving properly second. Question? All in favor? Aye. Motion is so carried. All right, next we'll have policy revision. First read.
Yes, policy revisions, first read. And so we, earlier in our work session, talked through some of the things in the policies. The updates that we received this evening are legal updates related to changes in either a reference to a code or a cross-reference. Some only changed the wording slightly, but didn't change the policy, but it may have affected the grammar use. Or, for example, the word school board was capitalized, or the sentence was changed just to be a little bit more clarifying. And so those that had some larger changes I wanted to highlight this evening. There is one policy that is recommended for deletion because it is encompassed in other policies, and that is policy IKG, Remediation Recovery Program, which is found in more detail in 3 other policies. And the other policies that the details were found in are AG, Literacy Plan, IGBD, Programs for Students with Reading Deficiencies, and IGBE, Remedial and Summer Instruction Program. Policy BBBB, Student Representative to the School Board. There are procedures that we have been using internally, and they will now be included and used in the policy. I will highlight what they are, and then this document will be included in the packet for next month for second read. And so an overview of those, of the process and things that are required is that the student will be required to be a current junior or senior, must have a 3.0 GPA or higher from the preceding quarter, and then interested applicants would apply by September 1st of that school year. And then all students who have submitted the applications and met those requirements would be interviewed by a panel at Middlesex High School. Additional information included is the responsibility of the student member, and that is to develop an understanding of county and state educational issues that would impact potentially our division, share information with students, to attend and speak at various education and other conferences and events if requested. The student also would comply with rules and regulations established by the school board. The main thing is that the student and in their function would represent all students, not any particular group, and share those issues or concerns or feedback with the board, and that they would be required to represent diversity of students' points of view and develop positions that are consistent in the best interest of the students. The student representative, as you can see we have one, serves only in an advisory capacity, does not count towards a quorum, does not vote. The student does also not have access to, does not attend closed sessions, and does not have access to any confidential student or employee information or matters. And so that information, as I shared, will go in the packet for next month's second read for that policy. Other policies to be updated, policy GBLA, third-party complaints against employees. You'll see within the policy, they do a strike-through on current information that's to be removed and an underline of new information. And I do recommend keeping the current policy in use and not establishing separate regulations that are already included within that policy. For policy JECB, admission of non-public students for part-time enrollment, you'll see within the packet that there are two options. Our current policy is option 1 that allows for part-time enrollment, and I am recommending to the board an adoption of option 2, which states that Middlesex County Public Schools does not accept students for part-time enrollment. We don't have any students in that current situation, and there is no impact to any students or families if the board next month chooses to go that route. It does protect us from overcrowding of certain classes and resources, which is why I'm recommending the policy. And specifically, it means students that are not enrolled in our school, homeschool students or private school students. It doesn't mean students that are participating as a Middlesex County student, but may only come for an abbreviated amount of time. It's not those students. It would be students that are homeschooled or enrolled in a private school. Policy JOD, release of student data and records, which is an optional policy. I also recommend that we do not change that current policy and add a separate form. The current policy meets the required needs of families and all of the organizations that we work with. And so those were the major ones that were up for review. As I shared, most all of them were just some small cross-reference changes or grammar changes. And so if there's any questions this evening, I'm happy to answer any of those.
Dr. Sykes, just
Yes.
to clarify, these policies are coming from VSBA?
Correct.
Okay, they're
Yes.
not something that,
Right,
making
VSBA
up.
doesn't, so we'll have another round of them after the legislature. But these policies specifically, VSBA pulls a group of policies every year just to do a more formal review. And what we see in this case is that there's policies where they've looked at and said, we think this could be a little bit more clear to the person that maybe doesn't work in education that's reading this policy, or also to help those of us in education understand the policy better. So that's mainly what those changes are. Sometimes there's a change in the number in the Virginia Code, and so there's an update just on the number. So maybe it's 22-1 instead of 22-2, something like that. And then sometimes a cross-reference policy has changed, and you want that updated to reflect an up-to-date policy.
and sometimes they don't apply to our
Correct,
situation.
that is correct. Sometimes they don't.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Sykes, most of our policies either come from the legislature or from recommendations for policy from the VSBA. Is that correct?
Correct. And so when it comes from VSBA, VSBA is following the legislature. So if it's a new policy, that means that the legislature has said that the Department of Education must have a policy on blank. And so VSBA, on the legal side of it, creates a sample that the school board can adopt fully, can make some changes to. Of course, I would never recommend not to adopt a policy that the General Assembly says we need. So the things that come during this time of year, again, they've just done a review to make sure the code is up to date, the cross-reference is up to date, and that grammatically, because they did a big change where school board is capitalized in all policies. Our manual is over 700 pages. And so they just take chunks of that as they go through for updates.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, the only one we're getting rid of is the IKG, which is in other policies. So it's just a duplicate policy.
That's correct.
Okay.
Any more questions? Okay, could I have a motion for first read?
So moved.
Second.
Moving properly second, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried. All right, next we have instruction report. Dr. Bishop.
My instructional report tonight is very brief. We are getting ready for SOL testing. Before the next meeting, we'll have started SOL testing, starting first in, beginning May 7th, grades 3 through 5 with a reading SOL. And then again, and then also starting the SOL testing at St. Clair Walker. So we're working on the first MES and St. Clair Walker, and then also the end of course SOL assessments. So we are in, I can't believe it's the end of the year, or very close. So we're really working hard. We have reading plans, math plans, and people pushing in and supporting our teachers and our students. So that is where we are instructionally. It's just all hands on deck.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Next, we have textbook adoptions, K through 8, science and social studies. We are proposing a textbook adoption. So this is the first read, and I will put something out as a form tomorrow. We'll push it out to all community members to actually look at the Five Ponds Press. There's a code that the community needs to use, a login, but that's all there on that communication. So we are proposing science and social studies from Five Ponds Press. Remember, we have 2023 standards in history going to be implemented next year. And we also have our science standards that aren't changing. So we're really trying to be a very consistent, intentional with our curriculum, K through 8. So we want it to be the same textbook company. This textbook company is completely aligned to the Virginia standards. You can find textbook companies that have, the teachers have to look at and see where that particular item is in the textbook. It's cross-reference. This is all Virginia standards. And they're updated to the 2023 history standards that we implemented and the 2018 science standards. The science and social studies textbooks are tightly aligned with the Virginia SOLs, and therefore most school divisions are adopting the Five Ponds Press, Fairfax being one. I mean, all the school divisions recognize that Five Ponds Press is a very favorable textbook that really understands our standards. We're not a Common Core state, so we can't take books that are Common Core. In our pilot with grades 3 and 5, the teachers gave very positive feedback, and we are proposing the purchase of class sets of the textbooks for grades K through 8, e-books, so the students can take those home and also use the things within the classroom and audio in grades 3 through 8, and other resources, including the teacher manual. We will also be working with the science and social studies teachers to further supplement their classes with resources like globes for social studies and vernier equipment for the science labs. We're kind of holding steady on the high school textbook adoption until we find something that really suits their needs. We did an inventory list of all the textbooks so we know exactly what we have, what we need. Macy McNamee, who is our science and social studies curriculum leader, is doing a fantastic job to really talk with the teachers and making sure that we're very consistent and have everything that we need in order to teach the new standards for next year. So I'll be sending that out with communication tomorrow. It's scheduled to go out. Next school board meeting, I'll provide feedback from our community members and teachers about if there's any feedback, and hopefully I'll ask you to approve those textbooks at our next meeting so we can purchase them right away, so we can start getting those in and implementing those curriculum and resources for next year. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have superintendent's report.
And I do have a few items to update you on in the superintendent's report. First of all, I'm going to speak about the student performance and support framework that we've been talking about as this year has been going on. And as Dr. Bishop said, SOL testing is right around the corner. It will look, as we get those results in, it's going to look a little bit different for us this year because we'll expect to receive the SOL scores as they test, although there might be a little bit of a delay for math and reading because the assessments are new. We really won't know how they count towards our overall school's performance until August at the very earliest. So at the elementary and middle, we won't receive the information from VIVAS, which is the growth information that we'll get for grades 4 through 8 in reading and math. My most recent communication with VDOE is that the earliest we would receive that is August, and that figures into the overall scores for the new categories of on-task, off-task, etc. I should also note that VIVAS was not recommended to be included in the General Assembly's budget, and so that may look a little bit different this time next year when we're talking about those reports and going into the following year's testing. At the high school, the 3E components, and 3E covers measurements in enrollment, employment, and enlistment. They have not been finalized yet. We do think that enrollment, enlistment will not change and how those points are assigned, but the State Board of Education will see the new recommendations and vote on the final employment criteria in their May meeting. And that criteria will go into effect for our current seniors as soon as they vote on it. And our current seniors will graduate about a month after the state board's vote. So the high school team has been tracking all of the work-based learning that our students have been participating in, and that goes back over the course of their time since they started 9th grade, because it will be a cohort measure. We just have to wait and see how that's going to count towards the framework and what that point assignment will be and how that counts. I will add, though, that it does not affect the graduation status of any of our students. There are things that count towards graduation that will no longer be counted in the performance framework for high school students, such as alternative testing and then some of the work-based learning that we have been doing. At the high school specifically, the framework will measure SOL scores in the 3E components of a graduating cohort, not current scores. And so this will be the first time since SOLs started however many years ago that when we get scores at the high school, you will not know what that measure looks like really for this year. We will know what the scores look like, but it doesn't mean that that's where high school falls in that overall performance rating, because it's the cohort and how they've done in all of their past testing. There really is no senior year testing. Most all of our students have completed that 9th through 11th grade. There still may be some that are trying to get that straight for verified credit. But then the 3E component now comes into what the point value and the measurements. As I said, they're still trying to finalize that. I think I shared in one of the earlier meetings that all of our juniors and seniors did take the ASVAB this year, so that is a component, that is the enlistment component of the 3E. As we move forward, that will be administered to juniors. And so it's used, obviously, it's used if students are applying to the military, but what we plan to use it for is how does that scoring equate to other career opportunities that our students could be involved in outside of the military, is how we'll use that data. Except for chronic absenteeism at the high school is the only thing that's going to be on current year data. The high school does not have any growth data factored in, so VIVAS will not hold that up. It'll just be a matter of what the Board of Education finally votes on, and then how quickly they can get that information out to schools. All of the schools will still be measured on chronic absenteeism rate, and I'm happy to say that has been steadily decreasing in all 3 of our schools. When I pulled it today, we're at a 15.68%, meaning 15.68% of our students are chronically absent, but that's compared to almost 24% at this time last year. So we're certainly making gains in getting our students in school and keeping them in school. I mentioned at the beginning we have new standards for English and mathematics, which also means new assessments. There's some potential that could delay scores a little bit coming out to us. We'll just have to wait and see on that. I think the larger thing we're waiting to see is that past trends across the state, whenever there's a new assessment, we typically see a decrease in pass rates. Again, that's a trend we see across the state. So we're anxious to see what the impact of the new assessment will be for us. I can say that our teachers and our specialists have been diligent about updating curriculum maps and pacing guides and making adjustments for changes in the standards. We've had an implementation of the reading program. I think I've shared with you all before that the Science of Reading and the Virginia Literacy Act, we've been way ahead of that. And so we're seeing that benefit as our kids getting to testing years. But we really won't know exactly if that alignment of curriculum, instruction, and assessment is fully aligned until our students get to experience these assessments for the first time. So We believe that we've done everything we could possibly do to prepare for them. Now it's a matter of looking at waiting for final votes from the Board of Education and then the actual students taking them. There's typically, it's called standard setting when there's new assessments, and there's a decision then on what cut scores would look like. What we've been told is that the cut scores would stay the same for assessments, but that's not always a good thing because it's a new assessment and it's new standards. And so, again, we're going to wait and see what that looks like. Unfortunately, we won't know more until really the summer of what that impact is. So that's on the school performance framework. As Dr. Bishop shared, we do have new history and social science standards that go into effect for this year. He shared about Macy McNamee being that social studies curriculum lead, and she's been working with teachers, identifying textbooks and other resources. And so we will bring that to you next month, new textbooks. But until then, as Dr. Bishop also shared, the departments are requesting other materials that can be used within the classrooms to help with that alignment. Ms. McNamee is at the elementary level, has been connecting the bookworms curriculum to the new social studies standards, and she's done a large amount of that work at the elementary level for those teachers. Curriculum maps are being reviewed and updated, and so the teachers have had the history standards. The thing is that they've only had standards. They haven't had the instructional guides, and the meat really is in the instructional guides. That's considered the companion document that supports teachers and helps with that transition from the 2015 standards to the 2023 standards. And the 2023 standards, as we shared, will be tested in 26. And so the guides include that crosswalk that show the changes. It shows the standard in greater detail. It lists supporting questions. It gives ways students can demonstrate learning on those specific guides. It would have been nice to have had them before this school year started. So the teachers, so this could be a crosswalk year. But unfortunately, this is the second time that VDOE is doing this, and we go right straight from one group of standards to another group of standards. VDOE has posted some trainings for that. One's in the summer and one's after our school year has already started. But as we shared, I think the thing that's going to help the most is the adoption of the Five Ponds Press. I remember when we adopted that my first year here at St. Clair Walker for history, because it is aligned to the Virginia history standards, which can be difficult to find. So that will be a document that those teachers will help support them in the classroom as they continue to update those standards moving through this year. Not all grades are tested in history. It's a lot of performance-based learning and testing that goes on. Fourth grade takes an SOL, and then eighth grade they take civics, and then again in high school. And so we'll be working to make sure those students have what they need there. Before I go on, because I have more, any more questions about? I should pause.
Instructional guides for
Yes.
history and social studies. You may have said it, but when do we expect those?
They're slowly coming out now. I think 2 were supposed to be out this week. 2 are out now, and so we'll continue to watch the VDOE website for more of them.
That's really making it quite challenging for teachers, I think. And I wish Larry were here because I really would like to rant and rave about how not inconsiderate, unprofessional, and really, I think the Department of Education is putting us at a disadvantage, putting teachers at a disadvantage who have to teach history according to certain standards, but don't have the instructional guides to use in history and social studies. So I'll save my rant for later. The second question, you mentioned the attendance issues. The 15%, is that across all 3 schools?
Yes.
What would you say would be an optimal percentage for chronic absenteeism for us, given the uncontrollable absenteeism, like somebody goes to the hospital or people get sick and we don't want them to come to school, which are still calculated into that chronic absenteeism calculation? What would you say would be an optimum number that we should shoot for?
I would say 10%.
10%.
And I think you made a point that everything counts against that. If a child truly is in the hospital for a certain number of days, or, you know, a
That's the flu.
family member passes away, they're at a funeral, or a doctor's appointment in Norfolk that takes all day long, all of those things are excused absences. However, they still count in the area of chronic absenteeism. And so our schools have done a great job of impressing upon families and meeting with students and meeting with families over the need for students to be in school, because you really never know when one of those things will happen to you and your child's wiped out for a week with the flu and things like that. And so they've put a lot of work into helping families understand the need for their students to be in school.
Thank you.
I still have more.
Okay, continue.
But sometimes I forget to pause for questions. One quick update I just wanted to share with the board is that we have not experienced any impact from any changes at the federal level in the Department of Education or with USDA. We are still continuing to receive our funding as we have been, which I think is important to share. And then almost lastly, budget update. You may have seen that the county has proposed their budget, and they have a public hearing scheduled for next Monday, April 21st. The amount of money that they have included for the school division will cover a 3% salary increase for all staff and 2 of the 4 positions that we requested, specifically speech language pathologist and early childhood special education paraprofessional. I expressed to them the need for those positions because they are mandated due to student numbers. And then any other additional inflationary increases. I can share that Mrs. Murray and I have had multiple conversations and meetings with the county administrator and then with individual Board of Supervisors members to help them understand what those needs were. So at this point, once the county votes on their budget, which should take place at their April 28th meeting, so the 21st they have a public hearing, and then the 28th they have another meeting. Their plan at that time would be final discussions and vote on their budget. And so after their budget is finalized, which of course includes our portion, we will move forward with contracts and posting of new positions as long as we have that funding. And then lastly, as we've shared a little bit, we have about 7 weeks of school remaining. Last day of school is May 30th, and it'll be quite busy between now and then.
Do you happen to know the time for the 21st for the public hearing?
I think it's at 7, but I can tell you right now. I will be at that one. Is that 7? Okay.
Thank you.
7 o'clock p.m. That's what I thought it was.
That's what I figured. I just want to double check.
Public hearing. I will attend that one, but the one the following week I cannot attend. I'll be in Roanoke at the Virginia Association of School Superintendents Annual Spring Conference.
Okay. Mine's clear? All right. Do we have any old business? Any new business? All right. Next, then, we will go into closed meeting, okay? In pursuant of the Code of Virginia, the board will go into closed session to discuss personnel matters, student matters, and legal matters. May I have a motion to go into closed session?
So, second.
Moving properly second, all in favor?
Aye.
And we are now in closed session. In pursuant to the code, the board discuss personnel matters, student matters, and legal matters during closed sessions. Matters discussed in closed session have been added to the consent agenda and other parts of the agenda as action items and information items. Board members, please certify that only lawful matters were discussed in closed session. Board members will respond by roll call.
Dr. Burnett,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mrs. McMurtry,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Robbins.
Yes.
Let's see, the consent agenda.
I move we approve the
consent
Second.
Moving proper second, all in favor? Motion is so carried. Have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moving proper second, all in favor?
Aye.
We are now adjourned.